What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Drone Camps channel. Please do subscribe because I have a pretty awesome giveaway coming up. This month we're giving away the Fpv X8 Mini. So it flies for 30 minutes. All you have to do is comment on this video, subscribe, and send us an email on our website at dronecamps.com. You'll get entered to win that. Aside from a cool drawing this month, we have this little guy. This is the Baby Nazgul from iFlight. It is a 1S brushless indoor-outdoor ripper, and it will do some mild training style flying if you want to fly something that is pretty durable for crashes. This will be a great acro trainer, and it will also freestyle. So you can fly it in stability mode, or you can freestyle pretty good on a 1S 450 battery. I did also range test it for you guys. So we're gonna fly way out in the field today in this review, and we're gonna do some freestyle. So I like to do two usual tests in my reviews, kind of a send it type of flight, and then a close proximity freestyle type of flight. So I wanna see how the power system performs on here. We also have a Crossfire Nano on board. You can see the little tiny Immortal T there off the bottom, and it comes out the front right here. It's mounted to a TPU mount with, it has a RunCam Atom camera on here, a little different than the Baby Ratel. I think I prefer the Baby Ratel, but the Baby Ratel might not actually fit on this quad. This is a pretty small setup, 27 grams. It is a little bit heavier than some of my early micro brushless builds. This little guy, being close to 30 grams, when I was building these, we were doing tiny whoops, and we were racing in bars and having some multi-GP races with tiny whoops, and a lot of indoor flying. This one I think is predominantly an outdoor flyer. You will crash it a lot if you fly indoors because it's pretty fast on the 0802 motors. These are iFlight branded motors, and they are also Zing motors. But you're going to get the most enjoyment with this quad outdoors. It also has an F411 flight controller on here. It has plug and play motors, which means that if you break a motor or bust a motor, get some dog hair wound up in here and you burn something out, you can pull out the plug and put a new motor on there, which is super nice. And we also have up to a 50 milliwatt VTX, and we're running analog video on this one today, and we have a PH 2.0 connector in the very back right there, you can see. And I'm going to recommend that you guys grab some of these Emax 450 batteries. I know it says that you should put a 300 milliamp battery on there, and it does come with a little TPU mount on the very top that will support a 300 milliamp battery. If you're doing close in flying and you're doing kind of mild flying, you're going to get 3 minutes on that 1S 300 milliamp. If you want to get more out of a longer flight, you want the 1S 450 on there. So the 1S 450 will get you out there. If you're just cruising around the field, a big open field like I have here, you're probably going to get around 4 minutes. So with the 0802 motors, they're notoriously pretty heavy on the battery and the voltage sag. So you want to also make sure that if you buy this one, go ahead and buy yourself a round of new batteries to fly with it. Don't fly old batteries on this setup because these motors will sag out your old 1S batteries. If they're already puffy, don't even try to fly them. You're probably going to get a minute and a half on old batteries. So this baby requires some new batteries. So let's go ahead and let's fire this one up. Let's do some fun freestyle. Oh yeah, by the way, it will power loop, and it will handle some pretty awesome maneuvers over even some Oregon big trees. So here we go. Let's do some flying with this little guy, and let's have some fun sending it out there and some close proximity freestyle. Here we go. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get the Baby Nazgul up in the air. And first thing we're going to do is some freestyle on the 1S 450 battery. You know, 450 milliamp, it seems like it would be a little bit heavy for this 27 gram quad, but I mean, check it out. It'll power loop. You can do some pretty tight low to the ground stuff with these motors. They seem to have a pretty good response as far as like the high end of the throttle. When you need it coming back down low to the ground, it flips and rolls really nice. Seems like this has kind of like the classic iFlight tune on here. It doesn't seem to have a lot of vibrations or kind of weird wobbles or a lot of prop wash. So it handles super tight, and it feels like a much bigger quad the way it flies, and that's kind of the strange thing about this one. So I think if you wanted something that was ultra tiny, that really wouldn't bother anybody, has a great tune, and has a decent flight time for how big it is. It flies almost 3 times as long as our original Tiny Whoops. And with that 1S 450 milliamp battery, you know, I'm able to get like 4 minutes out of a flight for a long type of flight. If you want to just cruise, you could probably get 4 minutes. Just a little better than 3 minutes with that 1S 300 milliamp battery, in my opinion. And I mean, you can see here, it can pretty much handle, and look at that. That was on accident. I didn't do that on purpose. So yeah, you can get a decent flight time, and I really don't think it affects the power to weight ratio that much that you're gonna really bottom out or notice it. And here we're doing a little bit of range testing with that TBS Crossfire Nano on board. It's so cool that you can get a TBS Crossfire Nano version. And 50 milliwatt, it doesn't do super well this far out. I mean, but I'm like 3 or 4 football fields out right here. And we have some real distance, and I'll drop down here in just a second, go a little bit lower to the ground. Just gonna take a flight over top of this big frog pond here, taking some chances, diving down in between the trees there. And there's a little bit of breakup, but not bad. I think this camera could be a little bit better. Again, I'm probably a bigger fan of the Caddx Ant than this Run Cam. And this is way across the field there, over by the disc golf course, coming back around. But I've heard of people going out for miles on 25 milliwatts, so I think if you're going to keep this one in pretty close, you're still going to get decent video. I mean, and this is a lot of stuff between me and the camera and the VTX, and it seems to be doing pretty good. And this is where it actually gets pretty precise. And these little tiny props, you can kind of bounce off things a little bit and still have some fun with it. Not big consequences, and a lot of performance out of this quad. I love it. All right, guys, welcome back from the flight test. Let's go ahead and put this little baby on the scale. And it's right around 41 grams with the 1S 450, up 42 grams. Total takeoff weight. So wow, it is super light. You can get it much lighter if you go with the 1S 300 milliamp battery that they recommend, but again, 3 minutes versus getting another minute flight time out of a 450. I'm gonna go with a 450 battery, and I'm using these brand new Emax 450s that came along with another Emax quad that I have, but this is the battery that I recommend, and I recommend getting the one with the PH 2.0 connector. This is called a PH 2.0 connector, just a positive and negative terminal right there, and they've got it converted over to an XT30. It is nice to also have the option to fly these on an XT30, so these are some new batteries that are coming out that you'll be able to get soon, but it's cool because I have the option to fly either or for micro brushless, and there are some micro brushless out there that have an XT30 on there. I don't recommend converting that one over to an XT30. Sometimes you'll get some issues if you decide to power something with an XT30 on a small flight controller, something as small as this. This little guy only has 5 amp ESCs on here, so the max power output, you know, might be a burst of like maybe 8 for a few seconds before you fry it. So be super careful there. It is also running an iFlight F4 flight controller, F411, and like I said, it does have plug and play motor, so you can see these 4 posts on the very bottom. They have a little terminal here, 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 and here, and it's set up in Betaflight as 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll see that it's also rocking the props out configuration, which is nice. And I like this top mount configuration. I did this just to, you know, get rid of that TPU mount, and you can get a piece of 2-way Velcro pretty much anywhere. This is a Gap RC one that I just poached and cut to fit, but this is probably the lightest strap setup for this type of flying. You can also put a camera on this one if you want to. You can run something like, I mean, a decased GoPro, or you can also put the Insta360 Go 2 on here. I just ran it without the camera today, and I didn't get you guys any beautiful cinematic video, but I just wanted to show you some pure flight performance on a 450. And I was impressed with what I was able to get out of this quad. Again, I think that the camera on here, it's okay. I don't think it's great. It did the job. And today it was like one of those days where we have a lot of smoke in Oregon and Washington right now. The air quality is not so great. It's kind of hazy out, and this kind of simulates like what this camera is going to look like on like a winter day. And today when I was flying, it was probably about 9 to 9:30 in the morning. So it was pretty early, but everything looks kind of red and white out right now. It's really strange. On the bottom down here is my Crossfire Nano. You can see that right there, and you can bind it up just by pushing that button. It's fairly easy to bind up. You see they have the iFlight logo on there as well. That's kind of cool. And I have to say, what's nice about this is that I didn't tighten up any of these screws. And typically when I'm doing a review, a lot of times I tell the new guys to always go over the whole quad. Whenever you get a quad, RC, helicopter, airplane, anything, you want to go over the entire aircraft with a driver and a screwdriver and make sure that everything is tight. And all the screws stayed on this one during my flight test. So typically these little tiny screws right here will pop off or come out of the motors, but it looks like iFlight has them Loctited in, which is really nice. So none of these screws fell out. So this is better quality than what I've seen, like something some of the early Happy model stuff sometimes would be missing screws. Emax, Baby Hawk series, when I first got that one, I came back and was almost missing a motor when I came back in. So yeah, go over the quad. On the bottom, this carbon plate, it will take some hits. It is pretty small, and I like how they have the camera out in front of the props here, so you don't get props in view. I know some of you guys don't like that. But this bottom plate is 1.5 millimeter, and it appears to be 3K carbon fiber. The top plate is 1 millimeter, and it has 3 screws to release the top plate if you need to get to your flight controller. It also has a built-in D8, I believe it was D8 receiver on here. So if you want to bind this up with FR Sky, Free Sky radios, you can do that. There is a little bind button on here. I'm not sure we can see that in the video. But you see there's also the VTX, which is riding above the flight controller right here. There are some pins that go down to the flight controller, and it is mounted directly to the flight controller. You can pull this on and off. If you had to replace it, you could simply buy a new one, and it should plug right in there. You can see the harness right there. And right here we have a UFL connector coming back, and you can see the antennas, the dipole comes out the side right here. So when I was flying around the backside of the van is notorious for blocking analog signal. The DJI even kind of breaks up. So my van is like the ultimate enemy of good signal. So whenever I'm flying, I mean, if I'm down low to the ground and I fly behind the van, I've also fail-safed. So the van's kind of a good test to the testament of power of any VTX. Earlier when I was flying through the parking lot around the van, I almost completely lost video. So I'll give you guys a tip. Like when you're flying in a situation like that, say you're out in the trees somewhere and you're flying something like this, sometimes people will just go ahead and hit throttle kill and let it fall to the ground, or try to fly out of it, or try to fly past it. What I do is I fly straight up. If I know there's no trees above me, the best thing to do is get above whatever is blocking the signal. So even on long range, when I'm flying long range and I start to lose video, first thing I do is throttle up and I try to fly up and out of whatever is interfering with my signal back to my goggles. So just remember that, fly up. 0802 motors, 35 millimeter props. These are tri-blade props. I also got some more props in the box, and we've got the box right here. You also get a few more accessories in here too, which is kind of cool. You get a little tiny screwdriver for tightening up those motor bolts right there. These are little tiny screws. They are machine screws. And you get some extra hardware from iFlight, which is also cool. Some tiny little clear plastic nuts for, I believe those were on the flight controller itself. Flight controller is mounted with some M2 hardware side to side right here. And we have some, looks like some type of sticky tape between the VTX and the flight controller. You don't want to touch the VTX to the flight controller. It will fry it out. So when you're doing these ultra small builds, just be super careful. These are the Gem Fan 35 millimeter 3-blade 1 millimeter shaft props. So if you order extra Gem Fan props for this, make sure that you're ordering the 1 millimeter shaft props. We also get a USB cable in here, and you know what? The world's smallest LiPo charger. I don't even know if I can find it in here. It's super tiny. You also get a little Allen wrench. This is a 2 millimeter Allen wrench to work on your quad, and this is that little tiny charger. Isn't it tiny? PH 2.0 connector here, and you plug in USB-C here and plug it into the wall. This plugs in just like this, and plug it into any USB outlet. If you're on the road, this is kind of nice. I don't really recommend like using this for the long term. This is kind of nice when you just want an extra charger around. I recommend the eSheen 6-in-1 charger. It will also do HV batteries. This is one from iFlight, just an example of another one that will charge 6 at once. I'm not a big fan of this one because it doesn't have a power adjustment setting, and the eSheen one actually does. I have the eSheen one here in the van somewhere, but the eSheen charger has 2 power options. You can also switch that one between like LiPo, standard charge, or HV. So I'm flying HV batteries on mine, and that's what I'm gonna recommend for you guys. Get the Emax HV batteries, charge these up to 3.8 volts, and that will also give you a little longer flight time than just flying the standard LiPo on there. So hopefully you guys got something out of this review, and again, you learned something. I think this is one of those ones that like everybody should have in their arsenal. This is just a fun quad to own, and really it's going to be hard to break this one. If you guys break this one, let me know if you damage yours, because man, I want to know what you were doing to break this one. This one is so tiny and so lightweight that even with the most momentum, it would be really hard to break something. I think concrete crash. There's not a lot of flex in the motors, the arms out to the motors, so that's good news. There's way less flex in this frame compared to some of the other ones. So I like this like kind of classic long body squashed X design. It is pretty cool. Just looks cool, and it's the little brother to the big Nazgul 5, the newest Nazgul 5 that came out. So you can check out the link to both of these down below. I'll put them down below, and guys, any purchases that you do benefit my family, so it helps us keep the lights on and keep the Drone Camps channel going. So I appreciate all your support. You can also check me out on Patreon if you enjoy my videos, and be sure to comment, subscribe, and send us an email for that Fpv X8 Mini if you want to. All up to you. Guys, take care. I'm Justin Davis. I'm a mini Nazgul. I'll see you on the next one. Baby Nazgul. Bye-bye.